So thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to come in and talk about being a commercial real estate broker. My name is Eric Odom. I am the president of ROI Commercial Property Brokerage in Tampa, Florida. And I think it might be good to start with who I am and where I began so you know where I'm coming from. I started my career as a banker loaning on commercial real estate, and I went back to graduate school and then worked at a financial services firm before I discovered syndicated real estate, which led me to opening up this commercial real estate firm, ROI Commercial Property Brokerage in Tampa. Our firm is a full-service firm, property management, lease administration, and brokerage for all of the major asset classes, industrial, office, retail, and multifamily. We're affiliated with TCN worldwide and represent them in the Tampa Bay market. TCN is one of the largest real estate service providers, commercial real estate service providers in the world, if you're not familiar with them. And I will get a little bit more into ROI and TCN later in the discussion. But why did I get into commercial real estate? Well, some of it was by accident, some of it was planned, but I stay in it because I don't know of another business you can get into with the cost of a laptop and a cell phone, make six-figure income, and no one controls me, and I can do it for the rest of my life. And many of my mentors and folks that I've known in the business for a while, they've worked well into their 70s and 80s. They continue to do deals, and they own their own real estate just like we do. It gives us access to deals that we wouldn't have if we were a casual buyer, and it's fun. You know, it's exciting to be a part of it and to be able to control your lifestyle and your cash flow. I just don't know any other professions that allow that opportunity. Also, one of the things that comes up is a frequently asked question about commercial real estate is residential. And you see people doing residential and commercial real estate combined. I don't believe that that's an effective method to be successful. My mother, I grew up in a household from residential real estate. My mother was a residential agent. And commercial and residential agency are as different as selling shoes and selling computer networks. The only commonality is the underlying dirt. The way decisions are made is different. The hours you work are different. Commercial clients tend to be more respectful of the commercial agents' personal lives because they're professionals also. And residential buyers are doing it in their spare time. So they're expecting residential agents to always be at their beck and call. That's not the way it works in commercial real estate. Our transactions happen on weekdays during normal business hours. So let's get some house cleaning out of the way a little bit. We often get questions about the real estate market. There really is no such thing as the real estate market. There's a residential real estate market, a single-family market, a multifamily market, an industrial market, an office market, a retail market, and there are sub-classifications within each one of these asset classes, such as medical office and storage. And storage, by the way, is a hybrid between industrial and residential. That sounds kind of funny, but it's actually they're correlated with each other. These markets frequently operate completely independently. Yes, there are drivers that will affect everything in the real estate market. Interest rates, for example, will have a very severe effect on whether people buying decisions of real estate. But if you want to talk about individual markets, like the single-family market in a particular geographic area can be overbuilt. Lots of inventory and challenge of trying to fill the inventory. But the retail markets in the exact same neighborhood, in other words, the ingress and egress to that market can be 100% full, and all the retail in that general vicinity can also be completely full. And so the retail market in that geographic designation can be hot as a pistol, where the residential has cooled off somewhat. And so they're just not correlated. Also, from a geographic standpoint, you can have, let's talk about that neighborhood where all the retail is full. You can drive 10 miles away, and it looks like a bomb went off with all the vacancy that is available there. So I just want to clear this up. When people say the real estate market, there really is no such thing. It's very specific micro markets depending on asset class and on geographic area. Other housekeeping items if we're discussing real estate with clients and trying to do brokerage in the state of Florida, you have to be licensed. You can get this information from the state of Florida site, but here are the general requirements. Most of the licensing processing is geared towards residential real estate. It doesn't have much value for this commercial real estate agent, but it does cover ethical and legal requirements that you do have to know and abide by as a commercial agent. But if you want more information on the specifics on becoming an agent, you can go to the state of Florida's real estate site, Department of Professional Regulation, and they'll be able to tell you everything you need to know and where to sign up for your classes. So it's a steep learning curve. Many agents get into the business because they believe that there's big money to be made, and that's true, but like anything in life, that big money is reserved for the top producers. Most agents never reach top earnings and eventually leave the business. That's just the fact of the matter. But those that survive, the quicker they can get in to learn the business, the faster you can be on a path to success and financial freedom. It takes years to get there for most, and most people do not have the skill set or the dedication or the financial lifeline to survive. That's just the truth. But it can be a tremendously rewarding business if you are that person. So let's talk about the areas that you need to know. I try to classify into 3 buckets of knowledge. There's the financial knowledge, and that's like an MBA. That's understanding how to work with spreadsheets and cash flow statements, and understanding what the drivers of the investment decisions are: cap rate, net operating income, debt structure, waterfalls, buy-sell analysis, financial statement analysis, all these things, the numbers that drive the deals. It's kind of like an MBA, and you're going to get a crash course in it, and a lot of it's self-taught. The other bucket is market knowledge, and that's all the rental rate comparison, which areas are good for what types of buyers and tenants, what drives the prices, what areas are up and coming, what are on the downside, the pros and cons of each area, recent transactions and their values, staying on top of all of that information. That's your market knowledge. The last but not least is the human knowledge, and those are your contacts. Those are the players in the market, the brokers that are best to do deals with, and yes, the brokers who you might want to avoid. What about investors? Who's active? Who is out looking for deals? What things are important to these players? What about negotiating? Not everybody's the same, so negotiation skills fall into this category. Understanding how to deal with people. Not everyone's the same. There are different personality types. You cannot treat them all the same. And as much as we believe that CRA, the commercial real estate, is numbers-driven and not emotional, that is true for the most part, but still, after looking at numbers, buyers, sellers, tenants, whatever, can still look past the numbers and make emotional decisions because it doesn't feel right. And I tell my agents this all the time. Finding the deal is only 50% of the battle. The other part of the battle is managing expectations and working through the emotional landmines that are present in every deal. And I don't care what type of client you're dealing with, you're going to deal with some emotion. Some people are intuitively good at handling these situations, but the vast majority of them learn by getting deals done or by making mistakes and losing deals. And you can learn basic negotiation techniques, but there is also a discovery process within yourself. People see you in a particular light, and you have to learn how best to deliver the message that jive with how people see you. It's a learning process, and there really are no easy answers or shortcuts. So in the type of business, inside each of these asset classes are types of business you can engage in, and dealing with investment business is completely different than dealing with owner-occupied customers. Investment clients are always active. They tend to be only loyal to the extent that you're bringing them deals. They will deal with many brokers as they need to cast their nets wide to find deals. They do higher volumes, which is attractive if you're a broker, but you can't expect fealty from them. And they have their nets cast in a lot of different areas because they're all about deal flow. Now, your owner-occupied users tend to be more loyal, but their volumes of business tend to be smaller. And for example, you could do really well leasing a 15,000 square foot law office in a key
downtown core, but that law firm might not consider any changes to that space for 5 to 10 years. So in order for you to be successful in this market, you need to have more clients. And you also need to find ways to retain that relationship when they're not active. You don't want to just do a deal with them and then not talk to them for 5 years. So you have to figure out a way to stay top of mind when they need to address their space needs down the road. And there's always ways you can do that by offering ancillary services, for example. We'll go into this a little bit more in terms of other things that you can offer people to try to keep them engaged with you in between the periods of time that they're actually making transactions, whether it be lease or buy, on their space needs. Let's talk a little bit about the potential clients. Now, most of you guys probably know what this looks like, but developers, those are people who it's probably land only, but they're also developers that engage in repurposing current structures. They tend to be institutional guys, very numbers driven. Investors, they buy for cash flow. Sometimes they buy for speculation, like people who buy land in the path of growth. They're buying land and hoping that, even though it's not earning a cash flow today, they're hoping that that land goes up in value as the growth occurs around the piece of property that they're interested in. Now, independent operators and institutional operators can behave very differently. Some brokerage firms are better equipped to deal with the national, international business firms, the clients. For example, a small firm may not be equipped to handle a client such as Coca-Cola. They have their own real estate department, and they don't want to have multiple relationships with firms in every city that they have real estate. It's just not possible. It's not feasible for them to deal with. So they tend to choose a larger firm like a JLL or a Cushman to have one point of contact across their entire area of holdings. Regional tenants and investors tend to have more alignment with regional brokerage firms and so forth. But depending on the size of brokerage, there's always a client base that is willing to deal with you and that is a good fit for the type of business that you transact on. REITs are the real estate investment trusts. These are institutional guys, many of them publicly traded, some of them not publicly traded. They're buyers. They'll be your best buddy if you bring them a deal. But again, these are the types of folks that they're not going to have a lot of fealty to you. What are the characteristics of a good real estate agent? Well, let's go back to the buckets: financial knowledge, market knowledge, and human knowledge. The business can be very tough on agents starting out. I'm sure you're understanding that this is a common theme as we're running through this presentation. There's a massive hill to climb in terms of what you need to know. And the faster you can acquire that knowledge, the faster you can start on your journey and getting to where the path that you want to be 5, 10 years down the road. But it's only so many hours in the day, and most agents can pick up the financial and market knowledge most easily, and this comes with a little self-determination and access to educational materials and databases. And I don't want to minimize it, because the more information you know in these two buckets, the higher your success rate is going to be. The higher rate of closure you're going to have, because you can help to structure deals as you gain knowledge. And so this is a big help. Commercial real estate is a lifetime of learning. I learn every day, and I've been in the business for 30 years. But most agents can at least have a baseline of the financial and market knowledge within 6 months to be able to keep their head above water. Not experts by any means. It's a continual learning process, but enough to function. Now, the part that sinks most agents is the human knowledge. The only way you get that knowledge is by making as many connections as possible in as short a period of time as possible. And having deals blow up, they help you because you learn when they blow up. And many people cannot handle the rejection. They can't handle working on a deal for a year or investing 100 hours in a transaction only to see it evaporate before their eyes. And they're afraid to start talking to people when they're still trying to learn the other two buckets, the financial and the market buckets, and because they don't want to feel silly. And it's understandable. The problem is you can't wait until you're 100% comfortable, because no one is 100% comfortable. You will be waiting forever to pick up the phone and make that first telephone call. But over the years, there are characteristics that make a good agent. And the most is to be able to have personal skills and be able to talk to people, and they're spending every day making new contacts, maintaining the contacts they have, and when they get deals started, moving their deals along. The fear of rejection and call reluctance are the two biggest impediments. I'll say that again. Fear of rejection and call reluctance, in other words, afraid to pick up the telephone and make a telephone call, are the two biggest impediments to the majority of agents who don't make it. After fear of rejection and call reluctance, time blocking is probably the biggest challenge for new agents. They get pulled in a lot of different ways. Remember, you have a lot of information you're trying to learn, and you've got a lot of balls in the air. You have to learn how to keep them in the air at the same time. But you can never stop marketing. Every day, it's like brushing your teeth or shaving or taking a shower. You must be dedicated to what we call HPAs. That's high payoff activities. These are the activities that bring dollars in today and the future. And sometimes it feels good to work a deal on a current day, but one day leads to the next. If you're, for example, you're trying to push a deal home and trying to handle some of the operational issues on that, but one day leads to the next. If you're avoiding doing your marketing and your prospect, all of a sudden you wake up and there's nothing left in the pipeline. You have to learn how and when to say no. And many people want to consume your time. If you don't understand the value of that, and poof, it's suddenly gone. And examples of that are agents, other agents, your peers. They'll come in and want to take your time for free. Clients who can't transact. A lot of brokers, beginning brokers, like talking to people, and the person on the other end of the phone likes to talk to them, and it makes them feel good. But then, if you don't vet that person to make sure they can make a transaction, they'll consume a lot of your time, and it makes you feel good that you're talking to somebody. You feel like you're doing something, but you're not. That client's not capable of transacting, and you've got to cut them loose and move on. Appraisers are another one. They'll call and they'll want 30 minutes of your time to discuss the deal you just completed, and you need to understand what is your agenda, the high payoff activities, the HPAs, and that sometimes you got to be a little stingy. Is the person that's wanting your time, is it their agenda or is it your agenda? And you've got to be able to tell people no, because really the longer it takes for you to get critical mass on your knowledge buckets, your three knowledge buckets, really the human one being the most important, the longer it takes for you to reach your goals. So how long does it take to build a solid pipeline? Again, this is personal. It depends on the person. I know a $1 million producer. It took him 7 years to get to that point. In fact, his first 6 years were just a wasteland. He was always getting ready to get ready, didn't have a consistent marketing system, was afraid he would take it very hard when people would tell him no, or that he didn't know something about a property that was sold and he got called out on it. It would put him in a tailspin. And after a while, he just got tough skin for that. He fine-tuned his marketing system, and all of a sudden he started hitting the ball out of the park. It takes a long time for some people. Now, that's not the case with all people. I would say, generally speaking, it's probably 1 year. If you do a deal in your first year, you should probably feel pretty good about that. You consider it to be a bonus. Usually by year 3, brokers are starting to get a feel for it. They've built their human knowledge bucket. They know enough about the financial and the market buckets to be able to have conversation. They're getting their confidence level up. But some of the things they perhaps have outside of their control is sales cycles. And the type of business you do will greatly affect the sales cycle. If you're doing a development deal, those things have a lot of moving pieces to them. They can be really large transactions. That means a very large commission for you. But the issue is they can take 3 years to close. And so you can go to contract, and then the developer is trying to work through all of the machinations of that deal. And, it can even blow up. So you got to just put it in the bank and not worry about it and move on. Others are fairly short cycles. The leases tend to be, inside of 6 months. But it just depends. It depends on the type of business. How long does it take to build that pipeline? what kind of business you're doing, what kind of person you are. You're a hunter, a farmer. Hunters and farmers. Farmers are building are continuing harvesting a geographic area. Hunters are the types of guys that are just going out there and just pounding the telephones, and they're relentless, persistent, and consistent at getting those new contacts and trying to turn over rocks to find value for them and for their prospective clients. So it just depends. But I would say, generally speaking, the first year is really rough. Second year is pretty tough, but you start getting a few hits and start building some confidence. By the third year, you should be feeling a path, seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. So I keep talking about hunters and people that are on the telephone, and it probably sounds very daunting to you, and I can understand that because you don't really even know what you're talking about, or you don't really know enough about the business to be able to have conversations with people. So here's some of the things you can do to try to build business while you're waiting for the business, in other words. Means of prospecting is, adding value to your prospects' lives. This can be neighborhood information, neighboring sales, similar sales, tracking the sales inside a particular asset class and mailing people out information about that. Local information about the economy, government, zoning, congratulations on your purchase, sending out, cutting out where you see that somebody purchased a property, and you put a little handwritten note on there and call them. It all comes down to, at the end of the day, eventually you're going to have to pick up the phone. Eventually you have to get in front of them. So all these things that help you sort of start to build that pipeline. Know me, trust me, like me, do business with me. It takes a while, it takes a process. And again, these are things that if you're talking with an investment guy, they'll get to the do business with me right away if you're showing them a good deal, right? But then there's slower cycles for people who need to have that trust with you before they'll actually do business. And so these are some of the ways that you can try to help build that relationship and get to a meeting in person, then hopefully set the table for being able to get that listing or get that tenant rep assignment. So this is important. Nobody cares about you except for your friends and family. And when you're trying to prospect people, we all get these telephone calls, right? And people will pick up the phone and they'll say, my company does X. My name is John, and I want to sell you whatever. Nobody wants to take those telephone calls. And the way that when you're building your business, you're going to want to try to add value to the person that you're talking to. You want to talk about them. You want to think about, social media is a great way for this because you can see somebody that's done something, like they're working on a project, and you know how to make a connection for them. Sending them a little note with it and telling them that you have a way to help them. Maybe it's completely unrelated to commercial real estate, but you can send them a little note, handwritten note, and then pick up the phone a week later and say, hey, Mr. Prospect, Miss Prospect, I just wanted to follow up. I sent you this note. I'm serious. I want to help you. So it's all about them. You're trying to build that know me, trust me, like me, do business with me. You think about them. You can play to their ego. You can try to help them with a project. You can give them market information, but make it about them. Don't make it about you. And what I tell my clients or my agents all the time is bring value to prospects or go home. And nobody's going to have patience with you talking about you. You're trying to talk to them about what are the important issues for them and trying to get them to build that relationship so that you can be in the right place at the right time when they're ready to make a decision. Now, the funny thing about this business is that, I hear this all the time from, there's always some deal that pops that the other agents go, oh, he was lucky. Okay? Listen, the luck always seems to fall on these people that are working the telephones and sending their letters out, sending their notes out, and working the social media. That's how the luck falls. And there is no such thing as luck. I mean, there is. But it is funnier that the harder you work, the luckier you get. And, your market presence and your brand building and being consistent and persistent about adding value to people. Social media is a great method. We'll keep talking about this. It's a way for you to build a relationship with somebody without having to. You don't have gatekeepers. Those are like assistants who tell managers, decision makers, they keep their calendar free, and they don't want people getting through who are not on that calendar. So social media is great. If you don't have, I know a lot of you folks that you're just graduating, right? So or you're getting close to graduate, I guess some of you are juniors too. But if you don't have a LinkedIn page, get your LinkedIn page. And if you're in college and, or you're a younger person, you're like, well, this is not Instagram. This is not Snapchat. I don't like this LinkedIn thing. In the business world, it's all about LinkedIn because that's your professional resume. So put it out there and show people what you're about. And that's important because now you can start connecting with folks, participating on message boards, participating. Facebook has some great ones. Beth Azor, write that down. Beth Azor, she has a freshman forum on Facebook, and they talk to each other and participate, and you can learn. But not only is it a learning process, but also its ability to be able to connect. And you can connect with people that are in the industry and the asset classes that you want to connect with, and send out a connect, even though you don't know them. It doesn't matter. Start building that database that folks that you can connect with later. And you can, pushing like and making comments on posts that they've shared that are important to them. Again, make it about them. And these are great ways for you to be able to leverage and sort of build that connection with that person in a stealth manner. And LinkedIn's terrific. Get a Facebook also. Wanted to say, if you're in college, most college kids now, I guess, don't like Facebook. But if you've got a Facebook, Instagram, whatever, clean up all those drunk photos, okay? Because people are judging you. You want to make sure that they're set to privacy, that you don't want to alienate clients with political posts or drunk posts or whatever that's going to make them turn not want to do business with you. And I mean, one of the things you're wanting to do as a broker is just make sure you're not doing anything dumb that's going to make somebody not want to do business with you. So eliminate that stuff and clean up your political stuff, whatever's on there. That's for you and your friends to discuss, not for personal, or make it private. So that people don't see it. But the bottom line is agents who do the best are the ones who make the most touches. That's it. The ones who find common ground the quickest with their prospects. The ones who don't make it are inevitably the ones that are not making enough touches. They're not making enough meaningful connections with their prospects, or they don't have systems. So let's talk about important stuff like how do you get paid. The most important thing is, let's talk about some processes that agents typically or systems that agents get put into. Most agents are thrown into a boiling pot of water right away to sink or swim. They're given a telephone and some leads and say, make it, or don't. And for most brokerages that engage in this type of hiring, it's all about numbers, survival of the fittest. It's not about you, it's about them. And they're just thinking if they just get so many brokers in the river, some of them will swim to the shore, and most of them will get swept down and out into the ocean. But it's all about numbers for them. And other brokerages will take a longer approach, expecting a new agent. Oh, let me just kind of back up a little bit. That's fine I don't want to all of these. There's no perfect way to skin a cat here. So I'm not trying to be disparaging to any of these brokerage styles. They all suit their purpose, right? It depends on the type of person. There are some very good, they have of people who are good at human knowledge and aren't afraid of the rejection, that survive in those types of firms and do really well in a very quick period of time. It's just not for everybody. So you need to understand who you are, and I think that's an important thing that we're going to keep coming back to. Understand who you are and try to find a fit. So we've got the one that they basically throw you in the pot of water. And then the next one is the one that takes a little bit of a longer approach. And they're expecting a new agent to serve as an analyst for the first few years to learn the business. The downside of this is eventually you're going to be thrown out of the nest and expect to fly, and your human bucket knowledge is fairly empty. And if you've been working as an analyst or admin support, and you're having to, you've just, worked for a couple of years earning a fairly meager salary as a support person, now you're faced with at least a year of no salary until you can fill your pipeline. So, that's, again, pros and cons. Another type of scenario is you join a team, and as a junior broker, you're in a small portion on a producing team, and you fill all three buckets, working as a support member of an existing team. That sounds great, right? What's the downside? Well, typically you don't own your team leads, your clients. The team does, and you're on a really small payout ratio. And if your team members are in their 30s or 40s, they're not going anywhere anytime soon, and they're not going to be quick to raise your payouts. So you kind of have a glass ceiling here, and if you decide you want to leave, you're going to be faced with starting your pipeline from scratch again. So there is no easy way. There's no silver bullet. All the ways we have, they all have their pros and cons. You need to keep the end game in mind of where you're trying to go 5 years, 10 years down the road. Where do you envision yourself? And try to set yourself up in a system that is best suited, being honest with yourself about what you're good at and what you're not, and how quickly you learn, how your people skills are. But eventually you're going to want to control your clients and your deal flow, and what will that look like? And so it's probably not going to be a straight path. It's going to be one of these or three methods that I discussed, and then you're going to have to eventually move out onto your own and try to build your own pipeline and perhaps your own team. I would be remiss if I did not talk about this. Most agents are independent types. They want their freedom. Nobody's their boss. They don't want a boss. They want to control how much they make, and they don't want anyone criticizing them if they take an extra long weekend or a month in Europe. These independent types tend to think that they can do business from home. They don't need anybody. They're independent. They can stand on their own. That might be true for senior agents with an established clientele, but I think the odds are steeply against the young agent believing they can work from home and be successful. This is just not probable. This is a people and learning business. Young agents who come into the office often get thrown leads from senior agents who can't handle what they have, or they have brought in to partner on deals, and they can learn from listening to other people in the office talk and what they're working on. We have never, I'm just being honest with you, we have never had a successful young agent that doesn't value building relationships with those in the office and learning from those who are more experienced. And that only happens coming into the office and caring about them, caring about learning, caring about the relationship. It's the only way it happens. And so I guess that's all I need to say about working from home. Come in, network, take your office mates seriously, and try to learn and pick their brains, and also get included on deals they might have. So let's talk about choosing a firm. And again, this has to be where you have to be honest with yourself about what you're good at and what you're not good at. And think about the path of getting there. Envision yourself 5, 10 years down the road. What does that look like? And try to find a situation that's going to be most healthy towards you reaching your professional goals and your lifestyle goals, okay? Are you self-sufficient? Can you problem solve on your own? You probably need less support, and you want a culture that's a little bit more aggressive like that. What about if you're someone who likes to ask a lot of questions? You need a lot of support. Well, then that's the type of team that you need to be on. And that what that means, it means you're probably going to be earning a little bit less money for the first 3 years. But that's okay. I mean, everybody reaches their path at their own speed. But you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to constantly do the analysis of is this your best fit? and your personality, your skill set is going to matter a lot. Training and support. Some brokerages offer training and support. Others don't offer any at all. They just throw you to the wolves. Some of them offer very steep sales training, but not so much in the other two buckets. You just have to figure out like where you want to go and what your personality's like, and then selecting a firm that has a good reputation. Make sure you check around with others and see what their reputation's like, and then figuring which is going to fit you best. So let's talk a little bit about, before I let you go for the day, about ROI. That's our firm. We're Tampa-based. The firm was founded in the mid-part of the 2000s. We provide services across the entire spectrum of asset classes: industrial, office, multifamily, retail. But if I would say the weight of that expertise, I would say it's probably in office and retail markets. The idea behind the brokerage when we first started it was to build a platform for independent-minded agents who wanted a high earning potential and maintain the personal life that they wanted. Because of our relatively small size, the red tape's a minimum. We encourage collaboration. Our agents make deals with others to help on their listings and assignments. We're very collaborative in that way. Our agents tend to be self-starters, and so while there's little to no classroom formal training provided, we do provide a great library of online and self-learning tools. We do provide a framework and a format of where you should be in certain time periods to have success in helping you to fill your financial bucket and your market knowledge bucket. The firm offers services to their clients on brokerage, property management, and lease administration. And we encourage our brokers to buy and own properties for themselves and create a cash flow in addition to their brokerage commissions. So that's who we are. In 2019, we joined TCN. And why did we join TCN? We represent TCN, the Tampa Bay market, and TCN is a leading commercial real estate firm with over 200, servicing more than 200 markets globally, and ranks as one of the 10 largest commercial real estate organizations in the U.S. What it did for us was it enabled us to expand our reach from outside of the greater Tampa Bay area to really international. And they have very good coverage in the U.S., and it allows our brokers and our agents to network and to learn from others and to share deals. So if we have a client who has property in Atlanta or in Birmingham or in Greensboro, we have folks that we can rely on those markets to help service that client. And that's something we couldn't do before we joined TCN. So let me just summarize a little bit about this business. I do love this business. It provides a lifestyle that is unique. It provides, if you can be successful, it provides a lot, the ability to earn unlimited amount of money. It allows you to be able to find passive inflow investments for yourself and for your family. I think it's a terrific business. The investment to get into it is relatively small. It's not for everybody. If you're not someone who enjoys getting with people and helping solve their problems and kissing a lot of frogs to find the prince or the princess, it's going to be a tough road for you. But having said that, I see all personality types in here. Some people are capable of networking in other ways and be successful. So I don't want to dissuade you if you have a path and an idea about how to make that happen, but the most common path are those folks who are good at networking, good at picking up the telephone and having calls, and good at building a database and being organized and time blocking. Those are the things that the folks that I see being the most successful. Listen, I wish you all great luck and success on your path in the future, whether it's in commercial real estate or not. I appreciate very much the time that you allowed me today to talk about a business that I love, and I hope it's been educational for you. I appreciate, the invite, and I'd be happy to discuss with you further any opportunities in commercial real estate. Our industry is dominated by older agents who are close to retirement. I think the average age is in their mid-50s now. And so there's room for some fresh and young blood. And so if you want to try to forge a path for yourself, I'm happy to talk to you about it. You can email me at Eric, ERIC, at ROI Real Estate. There's a dot in between real and estate. There's no .com. Or you give me a call at the office and we schedule a time to talk, 813-514-1070. Again, thanks again for your time, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions or concerns.